is a California native who moved south to capture his dreams. He became a highly successful NASCAR crew chief, and his 21 victories are testimony to his talent. As a crew chief, he could stretch the rule book to the limit. But now, he's on the other side of the law as NASCAR's chief cop. And he enforces the law exactly as written, making sure no team stretches the rules to gain an unfair advantage over their competition. And tonight, you get to meet Gary Nelson, NASCAR's Winston Cup Series Director, on This Week in NASCAR. And now, from the ITV in Charlotte, North Carolina, here's the host of This Week in NASCAR, Eli Gold.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Charlotte, North Carolina, This Week in NASCAR tonight with our special guest, Gary Nelson, the NASCAR Winston Cup Series Director. He'll be taking your calls and comments tonight on our toll-free lines, and they're open to you right now. 1-800-292-5551. That number puts you in touch with us tonight here on This Week in NASCAR as we are live from Charlotte, North Carolina. A fairly quiet week as far as news is concerned. It's been a busy stretch for the Winston Cup team, so a chance for everybody to get a bit of a breather. No word yet on the future for driver Joe Nemechek with the Kodak Film Racing team. Joe, as you remember us talking a week ago, drove the car at Charlotte, but is still holding out hopes to become a Rookie of the Year contender for 1994. And for that to happen, he won't be able to drive the remainder of the events for Morgan McClure Racing here this season. No word yet out of Abington, Virginia, as to exactly who'll drive the car. We'll keep you updated, certainly, as the series moves on to Rockingham, then Phoenix and Atlanta to wrap up this season. The Winston Cup cars are off this weekend. The Busch Series running at the Martinsville Speedway, the Advance Auto Parts 500, and a great story from Martinsville. They've got the late model stock cars running as the companion event to the Busch Series on Sunday. A 32-car starting field, 147 late model stock cars signing in for inspection and registration today. So you talk about the odds being stacked against you getting into the starting lineup. 147 teams for a 32-car starting field for the late model stocks. They pay $10,000 to win at Martinsville, and that's virtually unheard of for the late model stock car division, hence that outstanding turnout. So that's the news of this week. Now our special guest of this evening, a man who over the years developed a reputation as being one of the most acute crew chiefs in stretching the rule book, but now he's making sure the rules are worked to the nth degree by all the drivers and the competitors. There he is working with Rusty Wallace. We speak, of course, of Gary Nelson, the Winston Cup Series Director. Great to have you with us tonight. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
You guys are coming off, like everybody, it's been a busy stretch, a lot of weeks in a row. Throw in the rule changes, the aerodynamic packages that went into effect last week at Charlotte. It's kind of a nice chance here to kick back and get a breath of fresh air for a moment.
Definitely a welcome break. You know, the schedule has been pretty grueling this summer. It seems like it's been hotter this year than it's ever been. And then, you know, just the normal job that I've had. Last year at this time, we had Dick Beatty doing 50% of it. And this year, it's just me out there, so it's really worn me down.
Pretty good-sized set of shoes to fill. Dick Beatty was a very special man when he was active each and every day in this business.
Yes, sir. He taught me so much in the little bit of time I was able to spend with him, and I still call him and talk to him about different things. It's quite a different task than I ever thought it would be, working with NASCAR.
Let's talk about the aspect of the job that a lot of folks thought would be the toughest for you, and maybe it has, maybe it hasn't turned out to be that. You had a lot of friends when you were a crew chief. Everybody hung together. You laugh, you talk, you go to dinner, what have you. Now you're on the other side of the fence. Still the same old Gary Nelson, but now you're enforcing the rules as opposed to working in conjunction with the other teams to better your operation. Was it tough to separate yourself from that day-to-day camaraderie?
Yeah, it was very tough. You know, I didn't make any friends, that's for sure, and I didn't expect to. Hopefully, I can gain the respect of the competitors, and to do that, I think about it almost every day. You have to kind of be fair, you have to try to level the field, and you have to be compassionate to their particular problems and the hurdles that they have to make every day to just to get in, to meet. So So I really worked hard to try and put myself in their shoes because I have been in their shoes, and hopefully it's working out.
Was last week particularly difficult because of the new aerodynamic rules that went into effect? Was it particularly tough on you and your crew of inspectors, as tough as it was on the crew chiefs and drivers to get zeroed in?
It was probably my toughest week so far because anytime there's a change, there's people that like it and you don't hear from them, and there's people that don't like it and you do hear from them. And in this particular case, a lot of people, there was a lot at stake. It's late in the season, the points, a lot of tensions just from the situation of the season.
Sure.
And like I said, the long hot summer and then all the races in a row leading up to Charlotte being the last of many. It seems like an endless number of races that we've been to, and all of that compiled on top of the new rule changes that we've enforced for Charlotte. It made for some tense moments, but it all came out okay.
We'll follow up with Gary Nelson over the course of this next hour. If you'd like to join us, it's toll-free, 1-800-292-5551. The phone lines are open, so join us tonight live in Charlotte on Prime Network, This Week in NASCAR. Your calls as soon as we come back. The crew chief, Gary Nelson, on the right of your screen, with the gentleman who is now his boss at NASCAR, the president of NASCAR, Bill France Jr., as we welcome you back to This Week in NASCAR. Give us the quick roots from crew chief to Winston Cup Series director. How did Gary Nelson get picked in the first place? Were there any second thoughts on your part to take the job? How did this all come about?
Oh, definitely some second thoughts. Dick Beatty talked to me back in about 1988, the first time.
Really?
And I kind of shrugged it off and said, no way. And then about once a year or so, we'd talk again. And I got to the point where, as a crew chief, it was just a struggle for me. I built several teams over the years, successful. Then all of a sudden something would change, start over again, build another team up, get successful, and then all of a sudden back to square one again. I had 3 different car owners, and directionally I saw the future as, well, 5 years from now I'll be starting another team, and all that work, and all the young guys were taking over, I think.
Right, there's a look at the fellas for whom Gary Nelson served as crew chief, including one Rick Hendrick, noted as a car owner who ran a road course event in that particular instance. It's a varied group from the young and relatively inexperienced to the Dick Trickles and Bobby Allisons of the world, to the road racing specialists and Tommy Kendall. It's quite a varied group.
Yes, sir. There's a few more besides that I'm starting to think about, but it's been a career as a crew chief that was very interesting. I never got bored. There's a lot of work, and I will never regret it. It was a lot of fun.
Why don't we get to the phone lines? We've got Bud in Atascadero, California, standing by with our first question. Good evening.
Hello, Eli.
Hi,
Gary.
Bud.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hey, nice show.
Thank you.
I have a couple of quick comments and a quick question. I didn't like the tire rule that allowed Rusty to win, and Indianapolis, New Hampshire's got a track. What about Southern California? And Gary, do you like breaking the rules better or making the rules?
I'll tell you.
That didn't take long. That took about 11 minutes for that question.
The tire rule part of your question, you know, anytime we make a rule, we never really know who is going to benefit or be on the losing end of those kind of rules. There's always somebody. So we make the rules as fairly as we can, and we hope nobody is unhappy with it. But it seems like in any rule, there's somebody that becomes unhappy. Southern California, you know, is where I grew up, and I really enjoyed the time I was there. I think it was about 18 years. Riverside was always my favorite track. I used to ride my motorcycle over the hills and sneak over the fence to watch races because I couldn't afford a ticket. But then that track went away, and I don't know about any future plans for Southern California. We would sure love to go back there, though. We've always had good memories from racing in Southern California. And your last question, you know, for years I was the mouse, and now I'm the cat, so it's a little more interesting.
From your background of motorcycle racing through crew chiefing, how does a person like a Gary Nelson or any of the top flight crew chiefs today keep up with the technology, let alone have time to experiment, to push the envelope on the rule book?
That was always my favorite part of being a crew chief, was the development and the R&D and the new ideas and getting something new, developing it, getting it to work, and then going to the racetrack and seeing it be successful. That's what drove me in racing. Today, as a crew chief, you really have engineers working for you. You have maybe 30 or 40 people on the payroll that are working to make that car run, and you're more of a manager. You still put the input in, but the better crew chiefs today are more managers than they are engineers or shade tree engineer like I was.
I thought it was really remarkable, though. You basically, I think, cleansed your soul in a newspaper or magazine article. Stock Car Racing magazine a few years ago talked all about what you had done over the years and how you had taken the rule book to work in your favor. And I want to follow up on that and a lot more when we come back. But right now we're going to break away. The Winston Cup Series, as we say, is off this weekend. Next weekend it's on to Rockingham for the AC Delco 500. Here's how the top 10 look in Winston Cup points heading into next Sunday's event. Take a look. We're coming right back.
But at the very end, it's still nobody knew who was going to win because of the threats of cars moving up, and there was still good races on back in the field. Even though Ernie Irvin pretty much dominated, he never lapped the field. And 5 years ago, I can remember, or 10 years ago with Bobby Allison, I can remember winning Charlotte by 3 laps. So you never know how the race is going to be until it starts unfolding. Then there's always going to be that drama.
Now a viewer on Sports Channel Pacific joining us tonight, Wally in Hayward, California. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Great, thank you.
Hi, Eli. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Wally.
Hey.
My question is, with the 2 restricted races that we have now and the new rule changes, is that going to be throughout all the races now? And also, is the Busch Series going to change any?
It's an interesting question because we don't know day to day, as things develop. We're just keeping up with the competitors. There's 40 valves constantly. They get more horsepower, and to keep the speeds down, the restrictor plates came around at Daytona and Talladega. At this point, that's the only place we see the restrictor plates. We made some aerodynamic changes for the Charlotte and Atlanta races this year. We're still evaluating that to see how well they did. We were pretty pleased with the speeds in the race at Charlotte. The speeds were down about 5 miles an hour during the race, and that was definitely in the direction of safety. So our #1 priority when we look at rules is safety for all involved, and after that we look at the cost to the competitors and the cost to the show, or what the spectators are going to see differently. Hopefully the spectators will see a better show, safer, and at a lower cost to the car owners.
The NASCAR Winston Cup Series director is our guest this evening, Gary Nelson. Of course, next week we'll be getting back to our normal format, if you will, of having drivers join us on the program. And prior to the race at Rockingham, next Thursday we'll be at the Days Inn in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Dale Earnhardt will be our guest, driver of the GM Goodwrench Chevrolet. That's next Thursday here on This Week in NASCAR. And in 2 weeks, we'll be out in the Valley of the Sun, the Holiday Inn West in Phoenix, Arizona. Mark Martin, driver of the Valvoline Ford, joins us on that occasion. So hope you can be there in person. If not, join us right here on Prime Network. As we leave you for the moment, a look at Winston Cup points, positions 11 through 20. We're coming right back.
Now, Golf Digest, the #1 magazine in golf, introduces something guaranteed to lower your score. 8 ways to a better golf game. It can help you experience a game you always knew you had inside of you. A game that can make you better off the tee. Better out of the sand. Better on the green. Better all around. Experience the game that's inside of you. Get the 8 Ways to a Better Golf Game video. It's guaranteed to improve your game, and it's free with your paid subscription to Golf Digest. That's right, free. If you think you can do without it, think again. Order 12 issues of Golf Digest for just $19.77 now and get the latest video free. Call 800-228-2229. That's 800-228-2229.
Join NESN in celebrating a decade of great Hockey East action. NESN season premieres with the defending national champion Maine Black Bears battling the Providence College Friars. For all of the action, tune in on Friday, October the 22nd, live at 7, right here on NESN, your ticket to the best in college hockey.
The man they call WW, Walter Wallace, with a template checking under the hood of the STP Pontiac. What's he looking for there? What's he checking?
That particular gauge was to check the height of the engine. Right at the front of the engine, the crankshaft is really the center of the heart of the engine, and we check the height from the ground up to the center of the crankshaft.
And there the cars, when they go through inspection, get the particular colored dot for the weekend and the check mark from Buster Auten, letting everybody know that the car is ready to go. We were talking before, and I never did ask the follow-up question about you purging your soul, as it were. Sitting down with, I believe, Dick Bergman from Stock Car Racing magazine and saying, well, here's what we did in kind of getting around the rules during your days as a crew chief. Why'd you do that? Was it something you just felt you finally had to get off your chest?
No, there was, well, I guess I had to get it off my chest, but there were so many misconceptions of all of the things that we had done, and they were beginning to tarnish the championship that we had won with Bobby Allison. And they came to me and they said, you know, we know you ran a big fuel cell when you won the championship, and we know you ran lightweight cars when you won the championship. And I had to answer it by saying, no, we didn't do it in '83 when we won the championship, but I'll tell you when we did do it. So I kind of was caught in the middle of a tarnished championship trying to convince the people that, yeah, we did break the rules quite a bit, but when Bobby Allison became the driver, we didn't see any need to break the rules. We were so competitive in those days, and the risk of getting caught for one of those violations would have been curtains for us. So, and that's where it all came from.
Interesting. Let's go to Rochester, New York for our next call. Charlene on the Madison Square Garden Network. Hello.
Good evening, Gary and Eli. My
evening.
question is to Gary. I was wondering if he missed being a crew chief and if he missed rooting for one particular driver.
Yeah, there's an element of the job we've not discussed.
Yeah, the part about being a crew chief, I miss it. I missed the winning part of it, but the last few years as a crew chief, I didn't get any wins anyway, hardly, maybe just a few, you know, and the good old days of me being a crew chief, we'd win 7 or 8 or 9 races in a season, and that's what I missed. As the years came, you know, as more competitive teams came into racing, the wins were farther and farther apart, and all that work for a 12th place finish, just, it would devastate me at the end of the race. And so I missed the winning part, but I don't miss anything else.
Let's go to Dave in Omaha, Nebraska, watching on Prime Rocky Mountain. Hello, Dave.
Gary, I've got 2 questions for you and 1 for you, Eli, and then I'll hang up and listen.
All right.
Gary, as far as the young teams that haven't won yet, who do you see closest to getting to the winner's circle? As far as the cars getting backwards, getting airborne, if you hinged the spoiler to where it laid the other way when the car got backwards, that might keep them from going airborne. And Eli, why is Alabama always dodging Nebraska for a bowl game? I'll hang out with you.
Well, Alabama, as you know from the Southeastern Conference, the champion of the conference is automatically going to the Sugar Bowl. And when you're constantly champions, you constantly go to the Sugar Bowl, and Nebraska goes elsewhere, usually to the Orange Bowl. So that explains that. But since we're talking auto racing this evening, the question about the hinged spoiler. Do you get a lot of suggestions? Do the fans call in, write in, fax you ideas and so on?
Oh, that hinged spoiler one has been really the topic. I had originally, in the very beginning, a guy called me and told me he had a patent on the idea, and it would save all the race cars from now on. But we did some aerodynamic testing in the wind tunnel, and we found that wasn't the cause of the lift when the car gets around backwards. In reality, the car really begins to lift when it's just past 90 degrees to the wind, not backwards yet, but just halfway around, it would begin to lift. And so we really had to work on things, and we did some testing yesterday, And we do it just about every week. It seems like we're doing something to try and solve that problem. And we're getting pretty close to some things that are working pretty well. So we're pretty happy about that.
As far as a young driver who's yet to win.
Your other question about the young drivers, Jeff Gordon hasn't won yet, but I guess he's already considered an established driver because of his record so far this year. But I think a lot of people he has overshadowed, I think, a lot of people's view of Bobby Labonte and Kenny Wallace. Those two guys are really moving along good. They've made a lot of progress. I look for big things out of really those three rookies this year. Jeff Gordon obviously is the one you hear about the most, but Bobby Labonte and Kenny Wallace are right behind him.
You know who else is darn close, too, and might make the move next year is Ted Musgrave.
Yes, sir.
He's had some awfully good runs this year, and he steps up to join Jack Roush Racing for 1994. We've talked so much about the rookies here in the last few moments. Why don't we break away with a look at the Max Race Card Rookie of the Year points for 1993. It's a pretty good battle all season long. Take a look. We're coming right back.
My truck has 99,000 miles on it, and it's like a brand new engine.
America is talking about split fire.
I feel like I have a new engine.
No hesitation. You hit your passing gear, you're gone. Right now.
Split fire won a United States patent. It doesn't look like any other spark plug. It doesn't work like any other spark plug.
I love them. I have them on my motorcycle, my boat, and my car.
Love them. Love them.
Split fire. At $5.99, America knows it only costs more till you use it.
I can say I've saved at least $3 to $4 a week.
I use lower octane now. It seems like it runs like I had the premium in there.
I'm probably getting, I would say about 20 miles more per tank full, and that's a lot for me.
They'll pay for themselves, basically, in the first 6 months you own them.
Split fire. It only costs more till you use it. Get guaranteed split fire benefits for all gasoline engines at leading automotive stores nationwide.
Mountain man survival skills. The basics. A true mountain man must have a keen sense of direction, a certain physical dexterity, and a talent for surviving the most unforgiving climates. Of course, nothing is more key to a mountain man's survival than plenty of smooth bush beer and easy drinking bush light. So, head for the mountains and learn how the mountain man survives even the most grueling conditions.
Again, the inspection station, Gary Nelson. What are we seeing right there?
Well, there's a check of the overall height of a car. That gauge goes down and touches the roof of the car to make sure it's not too low. The competitors obviously would try to get the car as low as they could, and to keep the rules fair, we have to make sure that nobody gets any lower than 50.5 inches, and that's the gauge we use.
And you've taken all the arbitrary items out of it, the subjectiveness. It's basically now a go or a no-go. There's really very little, if any, tolerance.
My whole real platform that I've been working on is to do away with the gray area. As a racer, I lived in the gray area of the rules, but it's one of those things where, yeah, I took a quarter of an inch. I wonder if my competition took a half inch, you know, so next week I got to, and so what we've done is just made all of the rules black or white. Here's the limit. You can go right to there, but any more, and you're going to have to change it. So if the car is a little bit too low, it has to come up to the rules, and that's been fair for everybody, and it's really been well received.
Let's get back to the phone lines and go to New Providence, Rhode Island, where Ed joins us on the New England Sports Network. Hello.
Hello. Thanks, Eli, for a great show. I got two quick questions for Gary.
Yes, sir.
First off, concerning the TV coverage with the in-car camera, who puts that in the car? Is that the crew or is that the TV? And what kind of special things do they do for that? And secondly, a couple weeks ago when Jeff Gordon and others wrecked at the beginning of the race, the ruling that would prevent them to go to their backup car and start at the end of the field is, before the first official lap of the race started.
Okay, as far as the TV is concerned, in-car cameras are installed by a company. It's usually the Vision Group, although there are other in-car camera groups that have perfected the placement of the cameras and making the entire unit a whole lot lighter than it was in years gone by. So that's handled by a subsidiary or a contracted company by the TV networks. As far as allowing the pulling out of a backup car, as we do see in Formula One and other types of motorsports. Why not NASCAR?
No, NASCAR's never really allowed a backup car once the race starts. In fact, we used to change engines during the race, and
Sure.
They wrote the rules to not allow the engine block to be changed during the race. I guess it's mostly the cost involved. You know, if you have a backup car, you might as well go practice it. And if you got a backup car and you've practiced it and you got your primary car, well, maybe you like your backup car better, and then you're going to switch. And all of the rules or policing of the rules, it's a whole lot easier and a lot cleaner. One car, you unload it when you get there, we inspect it, you go practice it, and when the race starts, that's the car you're going to finish the race with.
Now to a viewer on Sports South in Greenville, South Carolina. Hello, Derek.
Good evening, Eli.
Good evening.
Good evening, Gary.
Hi.
I'd like to start by commending you on the work you've done this season. I like the way that you've pulled the rules up real tight and good racing. The only question I have, I guess, would be that week after week, I watch racing a good bit anyway, and I tend to see that Dale Earnhardt tends to lean on drivers more than anyone else does, and it seems like week after week nothing is said to him. Take for two instances was when he tapped Rusty Wallace at Daytona back in July race, and this week at Charlotte, he run up behind Mark Martin, but coming through the trial, he tapped him trying to get him loose and get by him. How come nothing's ever said to Dale Earnhardt?
Well, maybe nothing said that you see as a viewer, but we always have conversations with any drivers who are involved in any kind of incidents that we think they may have stretched the limits of fairness. But Dale Earnhardt, in all, I guess, respect to him, he has a camera on him all the time. There may be incidents going on with cars farther back in the pack that you don't see on TV. So he has created that by being an aggressive and a hard charger, that the cameras are always following him because they think something's about to happen. But I respect Dale Earnhardt very much. He does a good job of racing, and he really, I don't think, means to do anything but try to get to the front. And I don't think he intentionally causes any of those kind of problems.
And don't forget, Dale Earnhardt's our guest right here on this show this coming Thursday evening from the Days Inn in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Right now we break away with a look at the manufacturer's point standings. Gary was talking about the closeness of the competition a bit earlier in the show. Here's how the numbers stack up with just 3 races remaining in the season. Take a look.
Sometimes in life, you have to seize the moment. That's what Racer Magazine does for you. Here's the auto racing monthly you've been waiting for. It's about time. Racer is informed, emotional, authoritative, and passionate, with large-scale full-color graphics, written and photographed by the best. Something worth reading, something worth keeping. There are no long, boring race reports. You already know what happened. Racer tells you how it was done. We want you to have the opportunity to take Racer for a test drive, to experience this new magazine for yourself. To order a trial subscription, call toll-free 1-800-553-7400. There's no risk, there's no obligation. If you're not happy with your first issue, just mark cancel on your bill. We don't think you will. Seize the moment. Take Racer for a test drive. Call toll-free 1-800-553-7400.
On earth that I'd rather be than out in the open where it's so plain to see. If it's gonna get done, it's up to you and me. Come on and head for the mountains of Bush. Come on and head for the mountains of Bush. Beer.
Fact. Only one magazine is the best source for auto racing news. On Track. Fact. Only one magazine covers Formula One, Formula 3000, Indy cars, Trans Am, IMSA, NASCAR, and more every 2 weeks. On Track. If you want 100% auto racing, call 1-800-825-8214 now and get 1 year, 25 action-filled issues for just $29.97. Call On Track now and get the facts.
Back to the inspection of a Winston Cup car, the template room, as Jimmy Means Napa Ford makes sure it conforms to the showroom stock appearance of a Thunderbird. Where do these templates come from? Who makes them? How are you sure that they're accurate to what a car looks like in the showroom?
Well, that particular template you're looking at is the overall template, and all of the templates we have are made from production cars that we randomly go choose at the dealership, and we copy them, the silhouette of the car, and we make an aluminum template like that. We also make copies of our templates, identical copies that the competitors can buy. So when they get to the racetrack, they won't be surprised by a template not fitting because they have those templates in their shops.
And again, there are no tolerances. Again, you've got to fit or you don't fit.
Yeah, that's the way it's got to be.
Let's go to Gary in Parsippany, New Jersey, watching on the Madison Square Garden Network. Hello.
Hello, Eli.
Good
Gary.
evening.
Hi.
Eli, I'd like to apologize. The last time I got through, I had phone difficulty at home.
No problem. Glad you've been able to join us tonight.
Okay. The question is it doesn't matter who answers it. When Mopar comes back into NASCAR, what do you think the chances are that they should be running up on top? And two, I run short track on Saturday. Do you think tire compound, it's a third-mile high bank track, do you think tire compound would make a difference?
Tire compound definitely is really all a tire is. When you think about it, it's got sidewalls and it's got air in it, but what really makes it adhere to the track surface is the softness of and that is what the compound is. The softer the compound or the softer the tire, the better it's going to stick in the corners, and that's how you get fast lap time. So yeah, tires are really everything especially a third-mile track.
And this caller said, when Mopar comes back, he didn't say if, he said when Mopar comes back. Where does all that stand now? Because there are a lot of Mopar fans out there.
Currently, we don't have anybody from Chrysler or Mopar asking us about racing. You know, we've had fans and we've had a couple competitors, but nobody seriously from Chrysler has come to us and said, we've got a car we want to race. We really need to wait for that to happen before we can really get serious from our end. Let them present us with a car, an engine that fits the rules, and we'll go from there. But at the moment, they haven't done that.
Let's go down to Houston, Texas. Next on the phone line is Steve, watching on the HSE network. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
First of all, Gary, I want to congratulate both you and NASCAR. There are a lot of measures of parity, but I think when you have 30-plus cars qualifying at a short track with less than a half a second between the fastest and the slowest, you've got parity. And I don't think that there's a motorsports organization in the world that is as close to racing as NASCAR is week in and week out. I have two questions. One, would you explain in detail how the hinge door at the base of the windshield helps to vent the pressure in the event of a turnaround? And two, rather than messing with the aerodynamics and affecting the stabilities of the cars, have you considered downsizing the engines to perhaps 5 liters, a 302?
Yeah, that's a good question. They're both good questions. The hinge doors that you're speaking of are just ahead of the windshield, kind of between the windshield and the hood of the car. And we found that in the wind tunnel testing that we've done, when a car turns sideways, a lot of air flows in through the tire openings, the fender openings, front and rear, but especially in the front, because the driver normally has the wheels turned, it really opens that area to let air flow under the hood. And we looked at some videotapes of cars that got airborne and saw the hood was really lifting up, a lot of pressure under the hood. So anything we could do to relieve that pressure is where the idea came from. And we were talking about it one day and we said, you know, if we had some trap doors that would flip up when the pressure was greater under the hood, it would really help that situation. And that's where it came from, just an idea in conversation. And it's really been well received because it has no effect on the car. In forward normal operations, it has no effect on the speed. Your other question about downsizing of the engines, we talked about that quite a bit. They would reduce the horsepower of the engines, but also the competitors would be tempted to try to increase the RPMs to get the power back. And once they do that, we're looking at a big expense and a lot of chance of failure. So we're trying to figure out a way to be able to accomplish that, but not raise the cost to the car owners.
Interesting answers to some very interesting questions. We're going to come right back, but right now as we leave you, here's a look at some of the information about this weekend's running of the Advance Auto Parts 500 as the NASCAR Busch Series and the late model stock cars head to Martinsville. Take a look. We're coming right back.
I'm John Abdo, and this is my fitness profile. So tune in to my fitness profile each week here on New England Sports Network.
Their incredible battles in the 70s brought the tennis world to its feet. Now, the legends return to the courts for more unforgettable matches on the Champions Tour.
It's a Sea Pines semifinal Tuesday night at 7 on NESN. Your ticket to the best in tennis.
For the best in fresh and saltwater fishing, tune in each week to Jim Baugh's American Angler. We'll show you some of America's top fishing holes, as well as great tips on travel and cooking. So join us each week as we take you on the most beautiful angling adventures in America. That's Jim Baugh's American Angler.
Wednesdays at 5:30 on NESN, your ticket to the great outdoors.
We're back on This Week in NASCAR with Gary Nelson, our guest, the Winston Cup Series director, and there you're checking for the clearance from the ground up to the bottom of the air dam on the Winston Cup machines.
Yes, sir. That's another one of our go, no-go gauges. If it doesn't go underneath there, the competitor, like you see there, has to make it go. So he's not going to be allowed to race until the clearance is enough to the rules. He can be right to it within a thousandth of an inch, but if he's too close to the ground, he's got to cut it down.
And there come the 10 snips, and again, the go, no-go gauge. And once again, it's time to get the 10 snips out again because the car doesn't quite have the right clearance. Welcome back to This Week in NASCAR. Gary Nelson is the guest. I'm Eli Gold. We're taking your calls and comments as Tim Brewer keeps on snipping right there as we get right back to the phone lines now and go to Spartanburg, South Carolina. Richard joining us tonight on Sports South. Hello.
Hi, Eli. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Richard.
A couple of questions for Gary. First of all, the pit road rules, the speed on pit road. Will it be changed? We know the reason for it, but as a race fan, it's taken a lot away from racing. The second question is the new Monte Carlo for next year. Have you seen any testing done on the car, and is it better than the Luna? Thank you.
The pit road, it's interesting. You're the first fan that's really talked to me about the pit road speed and not liking it. Most competitors and most of the fans I've dealt with really have said that the pit road speed is obviously needed. Yeah. It's a necessity, but it's also the same for everybody. You go 35 miles an hour down pit road or 55 like at Charlotte last week or at Daytona and Talladega, it might be as high as 65, but everybody goes the same speed. So speeding on pit road isn't something that a guy is trying to do, but the pit crew still can make the difference, or the way the driver gets onto the racetrack, like we've seen getting up to speed or getting slowed down. So I am happy with the pit road speeds, and I'm very confident that we're able to control them with the way we're checking it. We had some state patrolmen with VASCAR teach us how to do it, and we're very confident in the way it works. Your other question
had to do with the rebirth of the Monte Carlo.
The 94 Monte Carlo. It's really a late 94 introduction to that Monte Carlo. We've seen one up in Detroit. They took me and showed me one of them, but really until a car becomes commonplace on the street or actually for sale at the dealerships, because we have to go at random and pick one from the dealership to make our templates and to make the rules. We can't just have a manufacturer bring us a car and say, this is the kind of car we want to race, and by the way, I just happen to have one outside. we don't do it that way. Yeah, it's got to be a randomly chosen car, and until we can choose one randomly, we really can't make it legal.
Let's go to Ray in Little Ferry, New Jersey, again on the Madison Square Garden Network. Hello.
Hi, Eli. Hi, Gary.
Hi.
Good evening.
Gary's doing a good job. My question, I don't know, I might have missed it, but we missed the first part of your show. here in New Jersey, we missed the first part of your show, but do you know at this time whether Rusty Wallace has signed back with Pontiac or has he switched to Ford? And how do you feel about Ford trying to grab all the good drivers?
Well, you know, that's a part of the business that we at NASCAR don't get really involved in, and we can't. It's each individual's team. It's their business to make deals with the manufacturer. If they can make a better deal, then they may be gone. And you know, we obviously like to see the different makes of cars competing, you know, in qualifying. If we get one Ford, one Chevy, and one Pontiac in the top three, we don't care what order, then we're pretty happy. So yeah, each one, it's kind of like they're trading punches or swapping blows. One gets, you know, Ford got Ernie Irvin a couple weeks ago, but maybe a year or two ago, Chevrolet got Jeff Gordon. So it goes back and forth, and it's kind of interesting for us to be on the sidelines and how one.
Rusty Wallace was the guest on our NASCAR Live radio show this past Tuesday evening, and obviously that question came up, and he said certainly there's talk. He said, I can't deny that, but at the same time, as of this date, nothing has been finalized and negotiations continue. And Rusty said, it wouldn't surprise me to go to a Ford, but it wouldn't surprise me to stay with Pontiac either, and it's a decision really out of his hands also. It's a Roger Penske situation being negotiated directly with the car manufacturers. Don't forget, next Thursday night, Dale Earnhardt is our guest right here on This Week in NASCAR. We'll be at the Days Inn in Southern Pines, North Carolina, just up the road from the North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham. That's 11 o'clock next Thursday night, and in 2 weeks, we'll be out in Phoenix, Arizona for our once-a-year visit to the Valley of the Sun at the Holiday Inn West. Mark Martin, the guest, 11 o'clock Eastern. That's 8 o'clock for those of you who hope to join us out there in Phoenix, Arizona. We're going to come right back with more for Gary Nelson, but here's a look at the broadcast schedule for Sunday's action at Martinsville for the NASCAR Busch Series. We'll be right back.
No, you're not.
To you by NESN.
In for Oates. He's in. He scores! A hot trick for the animal. Cutting in, shot, scores! You know a brilliant rush down the right side. Scores! Steve Hines, the rookie. Scores! You know! Yes!
No one lifts you off your feet like the Boston Bruins. And no one brings the home games home like NESN.
Under the watchful eye of Gary Nelson, we'll see Elmo Langley at work in the garage area. What's he doing there?
Well, that's checking the size of the spoiler. That's a very critical and a part of the car that the competitors would like to have a little bit smaller in most cases. So Daytona and Talladega especially, we checked the size of it to make sure they didn't make it any smaller. And then at all the other tracks, we checked the size of it to make sure they didn't make it any bigger, because they tried to make the spoiler as big as they can on all tracks but Daytona and Talladega.
We've seen so many different inspectors. How many inspectors are there on a given Winston Cup weekend? What's the role like now?
Boy, I'll tell you, it's changed a lot in the last year and a half or so. We're up to, at Charlotte last week, we had about 25 inspectors. So it grows and grows, and the tire situation that we've brought on and the different rules, it really means just more manpower to enforce all those rules.
Let's go up to West Haven, Connecticut next. Gary on the line. Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. I have one quick question for Gary about the templates on the cars. as far as like the big tracks go, Talladega, Daytona, the Thunderbirds, we saw them dominate last year because they were more aerodynamic. And GM guys, they received some new rules this year where we saw them dominate. Are they going to do anything about that so the T-Birds can run out front with them again for next year?
Well, you know, it was interesting this year that the Chevrolets took off, and it looked like the Fords and the Pontiacs were going to have a tough time. Then all of a sudden, things kind of changed. We didn't change any rules, mind you, between the beginning of the season and the time when Ford started running. So we really look at it as, yeah, we didn't change the rules. They were asking us to change the rules, but then they went to work and they found little ways. And about July, all of a sudden, Ford started winning, even though Mark Martin had run good all year, and that was really our benchmark. We saw him running well, just not getting to the winner's circle. And Alan Kowicki, obviously, when he died, and Davey Allison, both of those were big blows to the sport, but also the Ford Motor Company. Once now the other Ford teams are starting to pick up the ball and run with it, Fords all of a sudden, with no rule changes, are right there on top. And so we look at it as an evolving thing that as long as we know the rules are fair, we stick by our guns, they will come around once they get going.
Let's go down to Morganton, North Carolina for a call on Sports South. Hello, Keith.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good evening.
Good evening.
Gary, I've been around the sport for probably 20 years. And, I've been following you, and I think you've been doing a super job. And there's one thing I was wanting to ask you about as far as the turnover incidents that's been happening on the super speedways. Have you considered anything as far as the roof of the car to be hinged when the car gets to the 90-degree angle, that the roof would actually, part of the roof would actually just blow back and release the pressure off that?
Yes, we've considered that, and we've done quite a bit of testing. That's a good question. You know, the roof of the car is really where most of the lift is generated. It gets pretty tricky when you start dealing with aerodynamics because you don't see it. You know, we go to the wind tunnel and we believe the numbers they give us from the instrumentation that's on the car, but actually seeing where the critical point is, why the car wants to lift up, is still a mystery. And aerodynamically, automobiles are the toughest thing to deal with. An airplane is moving through the air at an altitude, and it's a lot easier to predict what the wind is doing, but moving along right on the ground like a car does, the engineers study it for years and years, and they don't know, they don't really have a clear picture of what goes on when a car moves along the ground. So it's an interesting problem that we're working very hard on.
We're going to come right back and wrap it up with Gary Nelson, so don't leave us now. We'll return to Charlotte in just a moment.
This Week in NASCAR has been brought to you by Kendall Motor Oil, pour in the protection, by the heartbeat of America, Chevrolet, and your local Chevy dealer, and by Smooth Busch Beer and easy drinking Busch Light.
I'll never forget my first oil change. For more than 5 generations, people have trusted Kendall Motor Oil to protect their engines. Today's Kendall protects better than ever.
Car is a pretty big responsibility.
Yeah?
And this is the key.
Hey, Charlene. Did you put the drain plug back in, son?
That day, I learned something about motors and motor oil.
What's that look like?
And to be sure to put the drain plug back.
Look for the newest members of the Kendall NASCAR racing team, Kyle Petty and Kenny Wallace.
Everyone talks about how racing technology makes their street cars better. There isn't a car company today that brings more race-winning technology to the street than Chevrolet.
What is a mountain man's natural environment? Let's explore. A mountain man enjoys peaceful surroundings. A place where gentle winds blow. And the beauty of nature is all about. Only here does the mountain man find true happiness with a smooth Busch Beer or an easy drinking Busch Light. So, head for the mountains and Find out how the true mountain man can make any environment a more natural one.
Take a ride on the wild side. It's motorcycles' hottest runs from around the globe with the World Grand Prix Tour and the AMA Road Racing Series. Get on the fast track. Cycle World, Thursday nights on Prime Network.
Gary Nelson, I bet you there's a lot you've learned that you didn't know as a crew chief into what makes this business work, isn't there?
Oh, it's amazing, and I keep learning every day. It's so interesting for me. I don't think I'll ever get bored with this job.
Thanks so much for being here. I wish we had some more time tonight, but we'll get you back again and continue our chat. We've had a lot of good questions tonight.
Anytime.
Gary, thank you. Our Winston Cup Series director, Gary Nelson, joining us tonight. This spot next Thursday evening, Dale Earnhardt from the Days Inn in Southern Pines, North Carolina. And in 2 weeks, Mark Martin from the Holiday Inn West in Phoenix, Arizona. Until then, I'm Eli Gold. Thanks for joining us. Good night, everybody.